everybody, and welcome back to Men's Day Out, India's only portal that covers gender stories, but from the other side. Today, we are going to debate about cyber safety, particularly where men become the victims of such targeted harassment. And joining with us today is Akanksha Srivastav. She heads the Akanksha Srivastav Foundation, one of the largest in India that talks and takes care about cyber safety as a domain. Welcome to the show, Akanksha.
Thank you so much for having me on this very, very important topic.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Akanksha, I would like to start with you from, breaking this myth. When we talk about cyber harassment, cyber bullying, we generally only look at women being the target or the victims of such crimes. But I also want you to throw light upon how men could be equally vulnerable to these kind of crimes, and what are the situations which, they could be getting into and getting trapped with.
So, Anas, that's a great question. But for us to understand why this myth that men don't get bullied or they're not harassed, I think we should first just take a step back and understand what's really happening in the internet space in India. So traditionally, due to evolutionary reasons, it is not because it's a gender fight, but because men were supposed to be bread earners and women were taking care of families. And it has changed historically over a period of time. Women have had lesser access to tools. So if you look at the entire social media map of India, it's roughly 70-30 between men versus women. And therefore, the majority, it's looking like the majority is subjecting the minority to harassment and bullying. It's also true. Whenever there will be such crimes, whether it's online or whether it's offline, whatever will be the majority will unfortunately take a certain amount of blame. And since the crimes against the minority will always be higher, they will be the ones who will be spoken about in general, because it's also a fact. Does that mean that this majority is not subjected to harassment? They are. In fact, let me tell you a very interesting fact that when men come to us, the first thing they tell us is that, ma'am, you help us, but don't reveal our identity. And I ask them why. And they say, because if you talk about the blackmail and the harassment and the bullying against us, actually forget the others. Our own friends and family are going to laugh at us first. Social shame, right? I'll come to that as well. So a lot of things which you're seeing, why do men not talk about it? Why do we not take them seriously? Is a result of a lot of social conditioning and a lot of social shame. It's how we bring up our children and we tell the boys that mard ko dard nahi hota. Why are you crying? Yeah, you a girl or what? Why are you wearing pink? This is so hardwired in our growing up that men also find it very difficult to speak up when they are subjected to any kind of harassment online. And one of the key reasons we have found is this fear of social shame. Do they get bullied? Yes. Do they get blackmailed? Absolutely yes. Is there revenge pornography? Absolutely yes. So you could be, I'm sure your audience understands revenge pornography, but I would take this opportunity to explain it again. When you're in a relationship, and if the relationship goes bad for whatever reason, and your partner has any intimate video or picture of yours and they threaten to leak it, distribute it via electronic channel, and then they blackmail you, whether it's for money or whether, if you don't marry me, I'm going to, leak this, and then everybody around you is going to be shamed. Men are pretty much subjected to it, but maybe the ratios are very different. It happens a lot more with women, and therefore we hear more stories of women. I hope I've answered what you asked me.
Absolutely. See, I do agree with you. And I mean, there is no, doubt about it that women are subject to much more harassment, whether it's online or offline. But does that really justify that, whenever then we make laws, they are not gender neutral? Even if, let's say, one person is subject to harassment, but because, we are giving an argument of majority versus minority, how fair is it that, as you rightly said, men don't even have a recourse today, forget the whole social stigma. I mean, it evolves from the reason that today if they go to the police station and they want to complain against a woman, that if they're facing any kind of harassment, I mean, either the police would perhaps laugh at them, or, even the society in general would make fun of them. I mean, we see it happening all the time on Twitter. Let's take examples of our politicians. If you look at any male politician, right from the prime minister to the leaders of opposition, all of them, are bullied, given names. I mean, they have different kind of memes coming out. But if somebody dares to do that with a female politician today, whether she's in position of power or in opposition, you see the kind of outrage that comes up. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say is, why aren't laws fair? Why is it that only, we speak about the women getting bullied more versus, we've kind of normalized men being bullied.
So there are 3-4 pointers I picked up in your question. I'll just address them one by one. Firstly, it's not an argument. I just presented facts. That's what the internet usage map in India looks like. It's not an argument. It's a reality. That's what it looks like. Number two, when we say why isn't the law fair and why are there not gender neutral laws, the fact is there should be gender neutral laws. Why are they not there right now? Because again, I'm telling you that this is a question of evolution, and this is the question of all of us growing to newer realities. It's like asking, why did child marriage ever exist? Why was it abolished in X year? Because it took us that much time to learn that it was not okay. And then we changed and laws were brought in. Why were, cyberbullying or harassment or information technology rights, why were these not there earlier? Because we learned and then the laws came in. So we are in a phase of evolution in every aspect of our life. It's not just laws. And it's going to take some time for any kind of social change and acceptance to happen. You know it very well that social change is the toughest to happen, right? And just laws are not going to help. So even when we talk about how memes are normalized, any kind of memes, violent memes of anybody is not okay. But do we think it's okay? Yes, lots of people think it's okay, and a lot of people think, "Arey, ye to mazak hai." They don't even realize that the kind of hurt which a meme can cause is exactly the same. The pain is going to be exactly the same as physical injury. So it's not first men and women, first understanding why abusing, bullying anybody is wrong, and then understanding that the pain which you cause is the same for both genders. Now, for us to understand that, it's a societal change which needs to first come about. It is not just the laws. You can have like a million laws. I'll come to that, why are laws not there. But first, it's the societal change, which we need to understand that it's not okay to bully men. I mean, forget whether they are in power or they are not in power. Anybody, it's not all right. You can't say, "Arey, ladka hai, chalta hai." It does not work. So that statement doesn't work in both scenarios. You can't give an excuse also, "Ladka hai, chalta hai." You can't subject them to any kind of cruelty and say "chalta hai" either. So I feel like that we are in the process of looking at fairer laws. We have not reached there, but we will reach there. I do want to address your point about the fact that when somebody goes to a police station, they might be laughed at. There are two things there. Yes, that could pretty much be a reality. I'm not even going to deny it, or I'm not going to defend it. But one thing is critical, that in today's time, technology has helped us with one very important fact, that you can have evidence of that crime. So you can have a record of whether it was a WhatsApp call, pictures, in whatever way you were bullied or you were blackmailed, any kind of obscene messages. Law works on evidence. And if you have that evidence as a man, you have that record with you, and then you approach an authority in a very, very systematic, and I would really request you also with a certain amount of open mind. Because if you're going to walk in thinking I'm a man and nobody's going to listen and people are going to laugh, then that's what you're going to attract. But when they know that it's really happened and you have evidence, I can assure you that at most times, more often than not, you will be listened to. And if they laugh at you, you got to change that. And you got to give them that that assurance that you're there to get justice, it's not funny. And that your family feels subjected, or your career has been impacted. And we do hear of stories where men have gone ahead and gotten that justice. So it might be unfortunate, but maybe the onus of that fight right now is on us to make sure that we don't give up and we see this fight through. So, one, go with an open mind. Two, always keep all the evidences which you can gather. Now, this is true of men or women, but a lot of this responsibility is on the gender to make sure that you have things meticulously recorded with you and you write out that entire statement before approaching a police station. There is no police in this country. They're not there to actually make fun of you. It's their job to make sure that they take your complaint and it's investigated. So you just make sure that you are assisting them with the information that they need. That's what I would really say.
Right. So effectively, you're saying men should at least give it a try. You should, completely, if you don't take the first step, naturally, nobody's going to help you. So as you said, gather all the evidences, build up a case, and then approach police. Of course, after that, if nothing is working out, then that is a secondary, thing to address. But at least give it a shot, go ahead and, try and seek justice for yourself.
It's like saying that, if you get COVID, there's nothing you can do. And, one doctor tells you or laughs at you and says, why have you come to me? What a joke. I see 100 people with 102 fever. You're not going to give up. You're going to say, what bullshit. I'm going to go to the next senior doctor. I'm going to go to the next senior doctor. And that's exactly how you treat when you face a problem which is causing you any kind of pain, whether it's emotional, mental, financial. You're not going to give up. You're going to go to the next person, the next senior person. And the same social media is going to help you today, because a lot of the senior officers, a lot of official handles are also there. And I want to tell you something that sometimes we make a statement that nothing is working and the police is not working, no law and order is working, nobody listens to men. In a country of 1.3 billion people, something is working right. So you have to have that faith, pick out the right people who would listen to you, and especially the senior officers in the rank. A lot of them are coming from very, very educated backgrounds. They're very passionate. They're open to meeting people. You have to take your case to them. But the least you can do is at least make a sincere effort. Don't worry about who else wasn't listened to or which case was not solved, because unfortunately, even the media shows you only the cases which are not solved. Nobody is talking about the successful closing of cases. There are thousands and thousands of cases which happen every day, whether they're terror related or blackmail related. We don't even get to know when they are nipped in the bud. You only get to know that one case which is not solved. So don't go by hearsay. Go with an open mind, but make sure you have kept the evidence, a track record of that. Because as far as the police is concerned, they're hearing you for the first time. They don't know the background. You need to be very patient and you need to be able to lay it out.
Absolutely. Right. Moving on now, Akanksha, let me come to the matrimonial cases, the ongoing cases which are happening in courts, and particularly, where the maintenance cases are being filed by the couple. So typically in India, it is the wife who is seeking the maintenance and the husband who is, supposed to present his papers, his documents to show, what is his capability to pay her or not pay her. Now, often what we see is, both sides, I wouldn't say it's just the women, but both sides try to hack accounts of each other just to try and bring that evidence to court. When it comes to the man, he would say, oh, she does not need any money. She's earning. These are her bank statements. And when it comes to the woman, she would say, oh, look at that. He has so much of money in his accounts. He's concealing that from the court. Now, how legal it is to actually hack these kind of, whether it's your bank account, email account, ITR, whether it's fair or again, it's very subjective and how court looks at it on a case-to-case basis.
So first and foremost, whether it's for marital dispute or not, whether it's for any, personal relationships or not, getting unlawful access to information which is not given to you and trying to get it unlawfully, in any case, that's criminal. I mean, without even for law to step in, if somebody has not given you access to something and if you hack into that, you're doing something wrong. Even for the right reasons, you're still doing something wrong. Because suppose there's a situation where, let's say, A and B are husband and wife, and B needs to have access to A's account. It's not your job. It's the job of the investigating authorities to do it. They're there for a reason. We are not detectives. We are not here to hack into people's accounts. And again, I want to come back to the same, point I was trying to make earlier. Even the way things are being handled right now in these marital disputes and all genders, I wouldn't say any one gender. It's very cruel. It's very dehumanizing. It's very, very hurtful to the families. And again, I would like to say this is not just about the laws, it's about our societal conditioning. It's about how we are brought up, what kind of environment we are influenced by. I mean, a normal educated person should know that it's not okay to hack into somebody's WhatsApp, emails, financial accounts, none of that. So even before the law steps in, I think few things are as clear as day and night, right? So if you need some access.
True. What happens is, you are right. When you look at it from a legal perspective, it is absolutely not right to hack someone's account. But there is no fear of action. Today we have seen cases because we cover stories of men. We have had men who said that, our wives are constantly hacking our accounts, bringing that as evidence to court. Now, the court is really not taking any cognizance of this. They're not taking any adverse action against the men either, but there is really no fear of law, for these women who are doing these kind of activities. So do you think this is the crux of the problem?
So again, I'm not a huge supporter of generalized statements. Like when we say there's no fear of law, that's a very, very strong and blanket statement. I wouldn't agree to that. Yes, it may not happen in a lot of cases. I agree to that. And there also things are changing. And I cannot believe that, at least in a lot of cases, if it was proven that it has been hacked and unlawfully it has been obtained, the information, and if you file an FIR, some action is going to be taken. In Madhya Pradesh, somebody we work with, one of the officers, he cracked a huge racket of blackmail and revenge pornography. Which one woman was running this racket, and she had blackmailed some tens, dozens of men. And she is behind bars right now. And it's just that none of you might have even heard of this case because the media is not interested in talking about it. And when I find that link, I will send it to you. It was all over news for those couple of days, but it didn't become as larger news as it should. So I wouldn't say that there's no fear of law. There's definitely fear of law. The fact that you and I can safely sit in our houses and have this conversation, and we can voice our opinions on social media. Something is working right. It may not be perfect. So it's quite unfortunate for the men who did not get a recourse here. But if somebody is unlawfully hacking your accounts, any kind of accounts which you have not given permission for access, please do file an FIR with the evidence why you believe it was hacked. How did you know for certain that this information, obviously because you did not give the other person access to your bank account, it may not have been a joint bank account. And I'm pretty sure that if it's not already happening, this is going to change very rapidly. They cannot deny action on an FIR.
True. Right. Now let's move on to the children and social media today, because, a lot of kids, social media has its own pros and cons. The recent case, which we are all looking at, the Bully case. And if you see, they are very, very young kids. One was a 21-year-old engineering student. Second one was an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And now again, you have the main conspirator who's been caught today. What does it really say? Are children falling for the negativity more than, the positive aspects. And then again, because we look at the gender aspect from the other side, whenever these kind of crimes are happening, it is only the boys who are penalized more. If you see, initially the police wasn't even revealing the name of this girl who was nabbed from Uttarakhand. How fair do you see, I mean, are we again looking at gender inequality, or, kind of giving more leverage to the girls, or giving them a clean chit over here?
So first, I've already agreed to the fact that there is a need for gender, not even equality. I always talk about gender neutrality. We need to reach a point where the genders should not matter. It's the crime, or it's, what is lawful and what is fair and justice. Only that should matter. At the end of the day, I don't care if the other person is a man, woman, or a third gender. It just shouldn't matter. But we haven't reached there yet. But I want to address the two very critical points which you brought up. One, when people say that technology is having a negative effect on children, it's like, I always say, it's like saying cars are causing a lot of crashes. Cars don't cause crashes. It's us, the way we drive and the way we use that's what causes crashes. And when does a crash not happen? When we go to a training school, when we learn how to drive a car, when we understand what a red, yellow, green light means. So what is really missing is mindful use of technology. And in the last few years, because of the really affordable rates of data in our country and availability of extremely economical handsets, every child is like born with a phone in their hand. And we work in villages, towns, everybody has a smartphone. Everybody has a WhatsApp, Google, YouTube. They know all of this, but they have never been trained. At least people like you and me, I'm sure, like we started with our desktop and then we learned the basic phone, then we moved on to smartphones. So that training is missing. So when you suddenly jump, if you give a car to somebody today and say, hey, go ahead, drive on the highway, there is going to be a crash. So what is really, and technology is wonderful. Let me tell you something, because I always give this example. When we were in school, at least I can talk for myself, and I was one of those nerd kids and who would to the T finish my homework, and I was like a teacher's pet. And I would just freak my parents out on one Friday evening and say, oh, I need those charts, that A for so and B for so. And they would go running around the corner, some shop, they would bring a chart and then we would cut it out, paste it in our journals. Today it takes 0.03 seconds for your search. So if it is so powerful, I mean, I remember going to this village in UP where children are making aeroplane models only by watching YouTube. It's just absolutely insane. They are singing, they're showcasing their talent, they are learning languages. There is so much knowledge available. You can connect to whomever you like. You can tweet to an Elon Musk, chances are he'll respond. So if technology is so wonderful, it's not really technology, it's the training mindfulness which is missing out there. Everybody wants to be on Snapchat. Everybody wants to be on TikTok. Forget children. It's even the adults who do not know how to use it mindfully. Then how can you expect a child who's not been taught how to use it? How do you expect them to be mindful? And the algorithms of a lot of these platforms is such, for example, on YouTube, if you did end up watching, let's say, one video which has some violence or it has some kind of particular language, it will keep suggesting the same kind of content to you over and over again.
Running on your phone.
Right? Reels. If you start watching reels, you can watch them for the next 2 hours because the entire mechanism and the entire tools which these social media platforms have, whether it's the heart shape, whether it's the red color, whether it's the thumbs up, it has been designed in a manner that it triggers exactly the same kind of emotion in our mind, which is triggered maybe by, it's proven scientifically, maybe by, in the use of a cocaine or heroin. So it's addictive. So I think what is really needed is education from a very, very young age today. And it's not just the children. Parents also read some fake news on WhatsApp, so it becomes like they panic. You know, I just today I was speaking to my landlord, and he's about 70, and like he said, there seems to be a lockdown in Mumbai from tomorrow, and should we just stock up things? And I said, where did you hear this? No, it's come on my WhatsApp. So if it's come on your WhatsApp, it's got to be true. So there's a lot of education which is needed, which is missing right now. And this is something which we should all look at priority, even schools and colleges, because teachers have a huge influence on children. And today, a 3-year-old knows how to operate a phone absolutely well. So right from childhood, we have to inculcate this safety and mindfulness. If you guide them correctly, children are very sharp. Trust me, they're like 100x better equipped and better exposed, and they will do the right thing. We just need to guide them right. Coming to these apps, I think they're despicable. Whether it was the Soli deals and now the Bully Buy app, I would strongly recommend to the law enforcement authorities that I don't care for the backgrounds of who was involved in it. I don't care for how sad life was. I don't care for, the fact that they are 18 and 21. They need very, very strict correctional punishment, correctional course. And we have to make case studies out of it. We have to make examples out of this, that you cannot get away just because of your gender. You cannot get away just because of your backgrounds. A crime which is punishable is going to be punished, because only when we make examples, then fear is the best deterrent. And then somebody is going to think 10 times before abusing somebody or creating an app like that. And I feel that we've normalized abuse and harassment so much online that sometimes we just look at this stuff and we just move on and say, chalta hai, ye to hote hi rehta hai.
Or block
So
them.
people
Most of them have
we
been
block them.
just blocking them.
So I feel that people take the option of blocking or muting them because any action we take in life is going to require a certain amount of effort from our end. So there's an exchange. I need to exchange some energy, time, efforts. So people always evaluate, is it really worth my action, or should I really be doing it? But when we see something as serious as what we are seeing on a Bully Buy app or Suli deals, I don't think that's trivial. I think setting up people for auction is not a joke. If you would do that in real life, it's pretty much setting them up for trafficking. So even if that happened against men, I would have said exactly the same. And again, I would like to tell you that I'm of the strong opinion that this has to be gender neutral. It has to be looked at from the point of view of the crime, not from the point of view of whether a girl was involved or a boy was involved. I don't think that's relevant. I mean, even if it was a girl and if she has done this, needs serious mental health help, and also needs to be punished, because that's what the crime, involves.
No, because 3 days ago, until the perpetrators were known, everybody was saying punish them, literally saying hang them. So if it's a boy who is under 18, who is 16 also, you want to try him as an adult. But the minute they learned it's a girl, and then as you said, the background that came out, sympathy has no place. Every rapist will also have his own sad story, but that doesn't mean that, we kind of start sympathizing with him. So as you rightly put it,
absolutely,
there has to be a very, very strong precedent that irrespective whether you are a boy or a girl, any background, if you have done a criminal act, I think you need to be punished equally and set the strongest example out of it.
Absolutely. And even I would really, appeal to the parents when your kids are growing up. And if you have a son or you have a daughter, even their bringing up has to be very neutral. And just the way you're going to look at it very seriously, if somebody, God forbid, groped your girl child or whistled at her, catcalled her, you also got to check the very first time somebody says to your son, why are you wearing pink? Yeah, stop crying.
Or stop
Mard
acting
ko
like a
dard
girl.
nahi hota.
I mean, that is the most
Sorry,
common thing. You say, oh, stop acting like a girl. If
stop acting like a girl. And dard nahi hoga yaar. Mard hai, koi baat nahi, seh lega. No, and that's how I think we've conditioned our men. And I'm sorry to say this, but I look at some very, very successful professionals and very powerful people. And when you get to know them closely, you feel they're unable to express their emotion because they have been told that expressing emotion is only for girls. And you just keep growing with that trauma and you keep growing up with that trauma, and you sometimes don't talk about the crimes you might have experienced, whether it's, unfortunate sex crimes against young boys, somebody in the family molesting them. They just grow up to be very damaged adults. And if they grow up to be damaged adults, obviously the family they are going to have and the work they are going to do, some amount of that reflection is going to happen, and we are responsible for it. So we have to upbring very, very fair and very, very gender neutral and compassionate towards boys as well. You can't build an uneven emotionally grown ups.
right. And before we end, Akansha, I just wanted to give this one message to all men who are, perhaps trapped in these kind of cyber crimes. I want you to tell them not to be bullied down, not to be blackmailed and shell out money. And I think one message from you, how should they go about it and not really give in to these pressures?
So, I'm really sorry that sometimes it's a very unfair scenario, and I do understand. But hey, life is unfair in very many different ways. But we don't give up because of that. And at the end of the day, your life is really precious. You matter, you're valued, you are in this world for a reason. And if you go through something where you're not getting a fair hearing and that makes you feel very demotivated and alone, you would like to remember that there are also initiatives like ours where we try and maintain a very fair and just, at least we listen, a very just listening platform. And we will try our best to direct you to compassionate officers, to the right officers. You have to fight this fight, because just imagine if you stand up, you fight for what is right, and you get justice, you will become a role model to so many other boys, so many other men who are just looking for a glimmer of hope. So don't, just because something has not happened till today doesn't mean it's not going to happen today. Things change every day. Maybe you were subjected to something unfair because you were supposed to become a role model. So one, your life is really precious. Don't be so depressed that you have any kind of dark thoughts about your own life. And secondly, there are enough and more good people in the world. Believe me. And there will always be somebody to listen to you, to hear you. You owe it to yourself to fight that fight.
Absolutely. That's very well put. I think only one can help himself or herself. Nobody else is going to come and take that initiative for you. On that note, I thank you so much, Akansha, for taking out time today. And I'll let you go because I know you're very busy with so many things happening in the media space right now. So thank you. Thank you once again for joining us and making it today.
Thank you for inviting me, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And I'm happy to be part of any case or any particular instance where you need our support. We're always there. So thanks a lot.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.